been able to get into parties? Or is support shortage still garbo? I don't think you can ever fix it. I don't think you can ever fix the support shortage. It's just the nature of supports in MMOs. I don't think that we could ever free ourselves from the support shortage in any MMO. Support role is boring as fuck though. And I mean, I just think that it's like it's a problem. Like, I don't know. There is a thing where supports, there's always a support shortage in every single game there's supports, right? So it's like at some point, most people just don't like playing supports because they don't do damage, right? But I also just feel like Lost Ark supports just feel so bad because, like, at least in other games, your role is like as a healer a lot of times, right? Where if you upgrade your gear, you see your heal numbers go up. Or things like that where you can actually see your numbers go up. But it's like in Lost Ark, you just don't see it unless you have meter. So, like, as a result, supports are just so much more boring to play. Maybe make class like a support build already scouter with healing turrets and things like that. I do think there needs to be like more diversity in supports in general. Big supports gain 50% more goals and raids, you see them rise. I talked about that before, and people yelled at me for that. I think like there needs to be an incentive to play supports if you're not going to make supports more fun. If you're not going to make more supports more fun, you need to make an incentive for people to make them out, you know, because like clearly people like supports are so core to these games and we need more supports, but nobody wants to play them and there's no motivation for people to make them. Support is boring to say. It's just I don't know how I'm doing. Well, that's the problem, right? It's boring because like you can't get any feedback. Like you can get feedback with meter, but you know, it's stupid that you need to set up a third-party thing to make the class more enjoyable. Maybe 90, 90, 50 where DPS didn't do any damage, and that's the other thing, right? Like I always say this about supports. I really wish supports could carry raids. Like, I wish it could be like, wow, I'm garbage at DPS, but my support made me feel like I'm a god at DPSing. My support made me feel like I'm a god at DPSing, right? I wish there was something like that where like a support could carry a raid, but that just doesn't exist in this game. They do carry raids, but the thing is, if your DPS is shit, no matter, you could be Lust Boy, and you're not going to clear that raid. If your DPS just doesn't know how to play the game, it doesn't matter if you're the best support in the world, right? You could be Lust Boy, and it will make zero difference. You will not clear that raid, and that's the problem. I wish supports could do that. I wish supports, like, you could have a support that's like, my support was so godlike that he was the reason why we cleared the raid. I'm really bad, but that support made me look like a god. That's what princesses make deathblaze and breakers feel like? Kind of, but you don't need to be a good princess maker to do that, right? I don't really think you need to be a good princess maker to do that. Remember when it was weighted supports for MVP will complain? Yeah, but also it was weighted for a bad reason. It was not rated for like actual performance. It was rated for heals. Like, if you did, the more you heal, the more you would MVP, and that was stupid. At least supports are regularly showing up on the MVP screen now, though, right? In an 8-man raid. They might not necessarily be the MVP all the time, but at least they're MVPing on the screen. Like, on the screen, they're MVPing, and Underline Radiant usually shows up. There's usually, like, 3 DPS and 1 Underline Radiant, at least. Which is, it's helpful, but the problem is, like, DPS can see their numbers while they're raiding and doing the fight. But if you're a support, the only time you actually get some sort of feedback from how well you do is at the end. And that's just not good design, in my opinion. You should be feeling how well you do while you're doing the raid. Like, if you play better, if you have better gear, you should be able to see your contribution. The thing is, like, these are, like, all problems I've talked about in the past, too. Like, for example, like, I think, like, supports are too homogenized, right? I think they're too similar. Like, it shouldn't be, and it's how they balance supports in this game. And honestly, it's just lazy balance. I honestly think it's lazy balance. Because, And I mean, technically, at the same time, I think that if we had a situation where every support was like different, and like, you know, sometimes you wouldn't want X support and sometimes you would want X support, it would make the support issue worse. Because like, you know, it's like, imagine going into like a behemoth looking for four supports for your party, but you can't take artists or paladins, and you can only take bards because artists and paladin are bad in behemoth, right? Like, imagine that. That would be terrible too. So it's like it's like an almost impossible. It's like such a hard issue to solve. I was gonna see how much party damage party members still doing my damage buff. Yeah, and I think that like if we could get like a personal damage meter, that would help out, right? Or maybe if you damage buff and like your DPS do big damn, right? Your screen starts lighting up and fireworks start going, and the more you're buffing, the more fire. I don't know, just some sort of feedback. You know what I mean? They need to just make support DPS classes and give everyone a solo buff. Well, the thing is, like, I don't know. I just think that there are a lot of people that like playing supports, right? So if you just made supports DPS classes, I think a lot of people would also be unhappy. Million DPS, each with 2 engravings, only 3 supports. People say extra support wouldn't help or delusional. Imagine if Artist was never released. Do you think Artist would see an eggier Bard or other DPS? I do agree that more supports would be helpful, but it wouldn't solve the problem. I think it would help with the problem, but it wouldn't solve the problem. I think we'd always still have a support shortage. It's just the nature of MMOs. People don't like playing supports and tanks. People like playing DPS. And that's just the nature of, you know, MMOs, sadly. But I'm not going to say it's not going to help, right? And any help is going to be good. Any help is going to be good. Yeah, get rid of Sunwell Sonic Vibration. I don't know. I think that would kind of just make the problem like even worse and make the class even more homogenized, which I don't think is a good thing. I think support's already homogenized enough.